Hello, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you are new. Today I'm going to be sharing with you guys some really simple but very effective fashion DIYs. Hey guys, I hope you all are doing well. So if you guys follow me over on Instagram, you may already know this, but I've been doing a little bit of sewing during quarantine. So far I've made a skirt and I made a two-piece set, which was a crop top and a high-waisted skirt as well. And I have a couple of other projects I want to do, but what that has done is left me with a lot of what is called cabbage or scrap fabric. And I figured since a lot of people are also making masks right now, you might have some spare fabric laying around. So I thought this would be a cool video to show you some ideas for how you can use that scrap fabric to amp up your fashion game. So I have 4 different DIYs for you, ranging from accessories to full-on flips. So hang on and get ready for this ride because I think it's gonna be a lot of fun and I hope you guys enjoy these ideas. But before we get into this video, don't forget to pause, go down below and hit the subscribe button. It's totally free and I'll let you know when I upload new videos, which is every single Monday, except for when I have a really crazy weekend and then they go up on a Wednesday. Also, don't forget to follow me on social media and like this video if you decide that you enjoy it by the end of it. All right, now without further ado, I don't want to rant and ramble too much. Let's get into the flips. Okay, the first thing I think I want to show you guys how to do is a ruffled sleeve. So recently, as I completed my two-piece set, I decided to make a ruffle sleeve, like a strap. It's not actually a sleeve, a ruffle strap. It is so unbelievably easy and a great way to spice up a shirt that you maybe used to love but don't love so much anymore. This would be perfect for any sort of spaghetti strap top that you have, or even if it has a little bit of a thicker tank top, it should work depending on how thick your piece of scrap fabric is, or for a tube top. So what you're gonna need is a long piece of scrap fabric and some thin elastic. And then I am using a sewing machine for my project. So traditionally, elastic is sewn on. You don't really want to glue it because then you sort of eliminate the elasticity. So if you don't have a sewing machine, I would recommend hand sewing this. You can easily do it. Typically you use a zigzag stitch in a sewing machine to do this, but you can easily just throw in a couple of straight stitches if you need to. Now, here is the key. I'm going to change the angle and let's show you how to do this. So when it comes to creating the little strap, you have a couple of options. You can hem the sides, or you can use a product like I did, like Fraycheck, and this sort of works as an adhesive that hardens the end of the fabric. I just use this for mine, but of course if you want a more professional finished look, you can hem it. So I'm gonna skip that part for today, but what I am going to do is fold this piece down. This is the short end, so not the length of it, this is the short end, and I'm going to fold it over twice, and we are going to just throw a quick stitch in here. Also, please keep in mind you should measure your fabric before you do this. The best way that I have found is just to sort of very lightly lay a piece of fabric across your shoulder with the shirt on that you want to alter or add these straps to, and just figure out where the best place is and figure out where you want that fabric to start, and then add about 1 inch worth of seam allowance. For reference, my piece of fabric is about 25 inches, and that's with the 2-inch seam allowance. So how we're going to do this is you're just going to, I always turn the dial at least once, and then very slowly, careful, and then back stitch just a little bit. This is just gonna make sure that it's a nice, secure, tight stitch. Okay, so I realized I didn't explain this that well. So what you want to do is you want to start by doing a quick forward stitch, just a few stitches, you don't want to do too many. Do a quick back stitch until you get to the end of the fabric, which is just going to secure the thread to make sure you have a nice and tight seam. And then you want to go forward all the way to the end of the side of the fabric, do a back stitch and a forward stitch, and again that will make sure that it's secure on the other end. Okay, also keep in mind you can do this by hand as well. You can also, if you don't want to use a sewing machine, use a product like this, which is called Liquid Stitch, and it is just a fabric glue adhesive. We're gonna be using this product later, so it definitely comes in handy. Okay, so now that I have the hem, I'm gonna take my piece of elastic. Now, for the elastic, to measure it, you want to just place it at the end of your strip of fabric and then pull it at a even tension all the way to the end, but you do want it to be stretched out. This is what's gonna create the ruffly type texture. So once you figure out how long you need it, you can go ahead and cut it. I always recommend starting by pinning the elastic on. Okay, so here we go. We're gonna do the exact same process and just sew a straight line down the middle of the fabric. You can guesstimate this or you can measure it. I'm the queen of guesstimating. I really don't measure when I do like sleeves and stuff like this. So you want to just place the rubber elastic right in the middle of the fabric. So you should have about an even amount on each side. Then you want to go ahead and pin the elastic in the center of the fabric, and then go ahead and again roll the dial at least once or twice. I'm gonna pull the pin out now, and now we are going to forward stitch and then back stitch, and then do a quick back stitch, and then forward stitch, pulling the elastic at an even tension all the way down to the end of your fabric, leaving about an inch for your seam allowance. Also, just another quick note, I like to try to get the fabric to the other end of the foot. This little metal bit is called the foot, before I start pulling the elastic, and that way it can move a little bit easier on its own. Okay, so this is a good place to stop. You have about an inch of fabric left. I'm just gonna do a quick back stitch, quick forward stitch, lift the foot, pull the piece out. I'm gonna go ahead and cut the elastic wherever I have the extra. And now you have this cute little ruffly sleeve. So now we have this bit of fabric left where the elastic ends, and we're just going to fold it and fold it to the end of the elastic and go ahead and create a hem. Y'all, I'm not sure that I mentioned this, but you want the elastic to be on the wrong side of the fabric, and that means this is the side where the pattern is the dullest, or if you're using a satiny type material where the sheen is also the dullest. So this is the side where you can't see the actual elastic. That's the side that you want to be facing outward for the world to see. Okay, it's literally that simple. We've now created a cute little floofy sleeve. Now, like I said, you can for sure, and this one's a bit wider, so it would be a bit easier to actually add a hem in. And if you wanted to add a hem, you would do that before you sew on the elastic, because once you sew on the elastic, it's going to become so much more difficult to sew a hem. But if you have not sewn a hem, Fray Check is a really, really, really great product, and all you literally have to do is you take the fabric and you just add a small light coat. You can be generous with it, but it also doesn't have to be like a ton, all the way down the side of the fabric. Also, it's super helpful if you grab the pieces of thread that are like cut on both sides. So like, for example, this one is a tiny little piece that you could easily just cut off, and it'll make it look a lot neater. So to sew a sleeve like this, so as you can see, I created a sleeve like this for this top that I made a few days ago. And all you would do is to sew it on, you go to the inside of the fabric, so this is the wrong side of the fabric, and then you put the right side of the sleeve fabric inside the wrong side. This is very confusing to like say, but so essentially, if we want it to look like this, with the good sides both facing out, I have to wash this, as you can see there's some marks on it, but if we want it to be like this, you basically put the right side of the fabric so that when you're looking at it, the right sides of the fabric are both facing outward on the inside of the shirt, and right by the hemline, you just want to do a quick stitch. A straight stitch should suffice. Just make sure you back stitch at both ends, and you want to measure this so that they're in a good placement on your chest. Again, I usually just throw it over my shoulder and just sort of guesstimate, and then take a marker that is water soluble, or chalk if you have some chalk, or if you don't have either of those things, a safety pin works really well too. You can just shove a safety pin in there and just mark in some way where that ends. And then also do the same for the back. The back, I just turned the shirt around and measured the front as well. I don't know if that's a great method of doing that, but it worked. And there you go. You just want to sew it in. And again, if you don't have a sewing machine, liquid stitch is a really great alternative for this, and it should hold it pretty well. And then you have these really cute, like shabby chic cottagecore vibe type of sleeves. Another thing that you can make from your scrap fabric is a headband. So I already lost the one I made. So this is one I purchased. This is one I made. Really, really similar vibe. This is from J. Crew. So it's a thicker band in this one. This is a skinny band because it's just what I had, and I figured I wanted this video to be as resourceful as possible. So here we have that same scrap fabric, and all you have to do is sew a tube and then throw it on here. So let me show you how I did that. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is find a long strip of scrap fabric and some sort of headband. You can use a skinny headband, you can use a thicker headband. In my opinion, it doesn't really make much of a difference. So the way that I like to measure it is I just like to take the piece of scrap fabric and just wrap it around the headband to make sure, A, it's long enough, and then just to figure out where we want the fabric to stop. So I'm just gonna like scoot this around. Okay, so we want a little bit of space at the bottom because again, we are gonna be hemming this, so about an inch worth of seam allowance. And we go around, and so this is well long enough. So I'm just gonna cut this fabric. So for my headband, this piece of fabric is about 17 inches long. Okay, so the first thing I'm gonna do is add a hem. So I'm going to just fold this end of the fabric. Now, because we are rolling this into a tube, you don't have to do a double rolled hem, which is what we did for the sleeve. You just need to hem this up once. So just fold it about 1/2 inch and then chuck it in the sewing machine and do it the same way we hemmed the sleeve, with forward stitch, a back stitch, and then forward stitch, and back stitch, and forward stitch. So it's quite simple. And again, if you don't have a sewing machine, liquid stitch is the move. And I can actually just show you really quick. So for this, you literally just put a generous line of the liquid stitch and you fold it over, and this takes about 30 minutes to 15 minutes to dry. So it does say to press it down, which means you might have some spillage, as we did here. So then the lovely thing about scrap fabric is you can just use it to clean up your mess. So that is how you use the liquid stitch. So that is on that side, and now for the other side, you know what, we'll just liquid stitch it too. It's fine, it's good. Also for reference, this piece of fabric is about 3.5 inches wide. Okay, so now that we have this done, what we wanna do is, like I said, you wanna flip it to the good side of the fabric, and then you want to fold this piece in half, and you want to take a stitch all the way down. So just one seam all the way to the end. Okay, so now that you have your tube all sewn together, what you wanna do is take a safety pin and weave it through one of the ends of the tube. Once you have the pin in, you want to stick it inside of the fabric, and you're going to turn the tube inside out. I would recommend to waiting and letting your liquid stitch dry before you do this. It will make it quite a bit more difficult if you try to do it while it's wet. I know from experience. So you're just going to take the pin and shove it in this hole, and then grabbing the pin and shimmying the fabric as you go, and then just sort of tugging on it very gently. You don't want to rip it, of course. You're gonna just sort of straighten everything out until the pin comes out the other end of the tube. Okay, so once the pin has come all the way through, you want to just make sure the fabric comes all the way through, and voila, you have your headband casing. Okay, so now you're just going to stick your headband inside of the casing. All right, and as you can see, here is like the body of the headband. So there is a seam. I always like to try to make sure that that seam is on the bottom of the headband. So now what we're gonna do is close the seams up, and I'm actually just gonna use the liquid stitch to just glue these together. So I'm just gonna, this already glued itself together. Not sure what happened, but we're gonna add like another little smattering of glue, and then I'm gonna just take a piece of cabbage and squeeze it together. I don't really want to get it on my fingers, so I'm just gonna squeeze that together so that it has a nice tight seal. And now for this one, we're gonna do the same. Boop, boop, boop. All right, and there you have a headband. Now there are definitely different things that you can do to make this more of an interesting headband. So for example, if you have another piece of fabric, you can make little like ties to go up here if you wanted. Which is a very simple process. All you need to do is cut out a ribbon shape. I always find it really helpful to have an example. So basically it's like this bow tie shape. So this came off of a scrunchie, but it's like exactly what we want. So I'm just going to trace it with some space around it. Now this scrunchie is double layered. Cute, we love. We could do that. We're not going to. We're gonna make this as simple as possible. We're gonna cut this shape out. Okay, so this is one of these projects where like the shape, it makes the liquid stitch a godsend. So we're just gonna do a layer of liquid stitch to just fold everything around. Okay, so then the next thing you wanna do, now I'm gonna do this actually while my liquid stitch is a little bit wet because I actually do want it to sort of harden in the bow shape. So you're literally just gonna tie it in a knot. So I just have it good side facing up. So I have the knot, but I kept a quite large opening so that we can just pop it through here and then go ahead and tie it tight. Now I'm going to just press the pieces of the ends together to form a cute little like almost triangle type of thing on both ends. And there you go. You've got yourself a cute little headband. Okay, another hair accessories project. So as you may have seen, the bandana has come back in like full force and people are like wearing them like this. Now, I don't know if this is a problem that you have, but I literally hate having that huge clump of bandana material under my hair because I always feel like it raises it so it doesn't really look as I wished it would. So we're gonna make a quick fix to work around this. I know I keep working with the same two fabrics, I'm so sorry, but like this is all I have, so. So I'm just gonna take this fabric because I feel like this will look hella cute and cut it into a triangle shape, sort of like this. So this is about 18 inches and you want it to be, what is this, isosceles? Is when the two sides are the same, and then, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like bandana shape, you know, it's not like a perfect triangle, but like the length is a bit longer than the two sides. The base is a bit longer than the two sides, and that will work perfectly. So a 17-inch base, and a really great way to get a good measurement for this is to just use a bandana folded in half. So what we're gonna do is I'm just gonna take this little hair scarf that I thrifted, fold it in half, and this is sort of the shape we want to go for. Now I am making the base a little bit shorter than this because we're not actually tying it around our head, so we don't need all of that extra fabric. So probably closer to this shape. Okay, so I'm just going to glue down the edges and then just do this little fray check here. So we're just gonna do this for the two side pieces, and then we're gonna hold off on doing anything to the base just yet, but you wanna start by just gluing these bits down and creating that sort of clean edge by giving it a nice clean hem. So now that we've done both of the sides, what we want to do here is we're gonna be putting this around a headband. So we want to make sure we create a pretty tight loop. We don't want it to be too loose. So I'm just seeing how tightly I can go to make sure that this fits on nice and snug. So this seems like about 1/2 inch. Now, of course, every headband is going to be different. You could just measure the width of your headband. Mine is about 1/2 inch. So I'm just going to leave a 1/2 inch worth of space so that it's a nice snug fit. Now for this, I am gonna go ahead and use my sewing machine just so I can be a little bit more precise, but you could definitely use the liquid stitch again. Okay, so once we have sewn our little seam, I don't know if you can see the hem. Now that we have our, basically it's a tube, we're gonna take the headband and feed it through. And now we have this sort of headband vibe, and then you can just, oh my gosh, and there it is. And now you don't have to worry about like the most annoying little bump of fabric like you get when you tie the bandana around your head. So, okay, so the last DIY we're gonna do is another elastic project. So this I have is just an old t-shirt that I don't really wear that much. So I'm thinking if I crop it, I might grab it more. So we're gonna set that aside for a second. First, what you wanna do is take some rubber elastic and measure your waist. All right, so the first thing you wanna do is figure out where you want the shirt to end, and you wanna measure the elastic around that part of your body. You wanna stretch it out a little bit, but so that it's comfortable. So for me, I'm going right below my belly button. So this is like the perfect amount of elastic. So I'm just gonna cut it right there. Okay, so the next thing you wanna do is frock the shirt. So I'm gonna just try this on. Basically, I want it here instead. So I'm just going to put a safety pin at the place I want the shirt to end. Okay, so then I'm just gonna try to lay it out flat and try to cut it as straight as possible with about 1/2 inch of allowance for a seam. Okay, so now that I have the shirt cropped, I'm just gonna take the safety pin out. We're gonna flip it inside out, and we're just going to roll this all the way around just a little bit. So we don't wanna put too much space. We have about 1/2 inch to 1 inch worth of fold, and we are just going to pin this down all the way around. So I'm gonna just take some pins, and we're going to put this in place all the way around, leaving a small opening about this wide at some point in the seam. So for now, also just a FYI, ironing things down before you hem them makes it so much easier. So that is something to consider. This fabric is super soft though, so it is folding just fine. Okay, so now that I have the shirt pinned all the way around, you're going to sew it. And don't forget, you wanna leave a small opening at some place in the shirt. So I don't know if this is something that is like customary, but I like to start on a pre-existing seam and just forward stitch, back stitch, and forward stitch and go all the way through. Okay, so now we have a seam all the way around the shirt, but we left a small hole right here. So we're going to take the elastic that we measured out earlier. We are going to mark, we're gonna lay it out flat and mark each end. I'm gonna put a mark here, put a mark here, and this will ensure that we know it's not twisted inside of the shirt. So when you get to the end, they should be both facing side up. So we're gonna take the safety pin, pop it through, and then we're just gonna feed it through the shirt. Make sure you don't lose this end inside of the shirt, because then you're gonna have to start over or fish out the other end if you can. Okay, so now we have the two ends of the elastic. Now, if I knew where I put my needle, which was on this desk somewhere about an hour ago, so what I'm gonna do is just run a zigzag stitch or some sort of stitch. It really does not matter that much. I'm gonna run a stitch through the elastic I mean, like, if I had a needle, that would have been a lot neater. Okay, so now I'm going to stretch this all out, sort of shimmy the fabric around the elastic. And now we are going to just close the seam on the sewing machine. And now you just have this really cute little crop top. All right, you guys, I'm just gonna leave this t-shirt on for the outro, but I hope you enjoyed this video. These are things that I do in my everyday life when I'm either making clothes or when I am upcycling clothes or just making accessories or whatever. So I just find these things to be a lot of fun. I think that they're really simple projects, but they up the game. They take something that might seem a little bit boring or something that you're tired of, something that maybe you want to get rid of, but instead you can reimagine it and add some fun details, especially when it comes to the sleeves, I think, and of course like cropping it. And then just some fun projects for scrap fabrics. I love this idea. Like, honestly, do they sell these? Cause like they really should. Like, this is like such a vibe right now. Everybody woke up and decided that they were Lizzie McGuire and Miranda and That's So Raven from the 2000s and decided wearing bandanas like this again was the move, and I'm here for it. So yeah, I think that this is like a really smart way to get around the idea of like having that big bulk underneath your hair, because like for real that is annoying and one of the main reasons why I don't often wear things in my hair like this, but I will for sure be wearing this one. And if I have other fabric lying around, maybe I'll make some more. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Comment down below and let me know if there are other types of sewing, fashion, DIY things you guys want to see. But anyway, I love you guys so much. I hope you all are doing well. Also, don't forget to check out my description box. I've left the same resources I've left down below in my other videos in this description box about how we can be supporting the Black community and how we need to be helping be a part of change and just be better. In ways that you can donate and sign petitions. I'm also including a voter registration link down below, so please go register to vote. It is so important that we vote for people who represent everybody and who are gonna push legislation that is gonna benefit this country. Of course, everybody has different political ideologies. I've never actually talked about mine. I'm a political moderate. I am not a Republican or a Democrat. So yeah, please go vote. And if you want to vote for a third-party candidate, let's normalize voting third-party and voting our conscience instead of voting by party. I think that that's really important, and if more people had that in their head, perhaps we would live in a better world. This country was never meant to be a two-party system, and that is just where we've ended up being. Anyway, I'm not going to get too much further into politics, but please vote, be a voice of change, amplify BIPOC voices, and yeah, just as always, it costs nothing to be kind, so be nice to one another and just be better. We all can. Even if we think we're good people, we can still manage to be better. So anyway, I love you guys so much. See you next time. Bye.